This is a Fox News alert. We are just hours away from the last round of Republican debates before the first in the nation Iowa caucuses, making tonight one of the last chances that the candidates have to make their case in the Hawkeye state. This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here with us today, Harris Faulkner, Sandra Smith, commentator and national spokeswoman for the Libre Initiative, Rachel Campos-Duffy, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the former ambassador to the United Nations and Fox News contributor, mustache aficionado, Ambassador John Bolton. Welcome back. You're outnumbered.
Glad to be back.
Wow, what a title. Is the mustache part on your actual verite?
It's at the top of my resume, right?
Right, okay.
That's how you got the job at the UN,
what choice do I have?
Right? That was your UN selling point, huh?
Right.
All right. Big day. All right. Countdown to the debate tonight in Iowa. The frontrunner, Donald Trump, opting out of the big show, putting Senator Ted Cruz center stage at the main event at 9 p.m. this evening on Fox. 4 other candidates will go head-to-head in the earlier debate at 7 p.m. Eastern. All this as a new NBC Wall Street Journal Marist poll shows Trump pulling ahead of Ted Cruz in Iowa with a 7-point lead, 32 to 25%. But without the billionaire businessman on the stage, Politico says that Ted Cruz will go from being the hunter to the hunted. Senator Rand Paul gives us a preview of the shots that may be coming Cruz's way.
The biggest problem that Cruz faces right now is authenticity. You know, he said he was for the NSA reform, saying the government shouldn't collect all of our phone records. But then in the debate, his response to Rubio was, oh, no, he voted for the reform to allow the government to collect 100% of our cell phone records. So I think people who like my candidacy are wondering, if they're trying to choose between Paul and Cruz, they're wondering about his authenticity. I think the same on immigration. He's gone back and forth.
All right, so those other candidates, Ambassador, seemingly focused on Ted Cruz because he is now the front runner on that stage since Trump's not going to be there. What do you think the specific Cruz missiles that will be launched against him? Is it foreign policy? Is it immigration? Where is he most vulnerable?
Well, I think both of Senator Paul's followers will undoubtedly be stimulated by those kinds of comments. But I think for Cruz, this is a real opportunity. It may be that he's the focus with Donald Trump not there, but that simply plays to, I think, one of his greatest strengths. As a debater, he's primed. It's like a chess expert who can play 15 games of chess at once. Debating 6 other people simultaneously, I don't think is going to be a problem for Ted Cruz. If I were the other people, I would be more worried about trying to take him on directly than taking on the absent Donald Trump.
Yeah, he is very good, Harris. We know that he's a seasoned debater and that Marco Rubio has been firing those Cruz missiles at him and the other candidates. But how much will it be Rubio-Cruz tonight?
You know, I don't know the percentage of just those two, but I do find it very interesting. If you guys will recall, when Donald Trump has been part of things, he actually hasn't been as vocal in the debates as he is elsewhere. So now is Ted Cruz's chance to not just get his points across, and yeah, he'll be taking the incoming probably primarily, but also to soak up some of that talk time. By the way, super PACs in promotion of him, of Ted Cruz, are offering just now, and The Hill is just reporting this, $1.5 million for them to debate each other this weekend, Cruz and Trump. So I think they may be looking at, look, whether he does well tonight or he doesn't, Ted Cruz, we'd like to set up a second chance.
Yeah.
And isn't, Sandra, if they all gang up on Ted Cruz, doesn't that benefit Donald Trump in a way? I mean, if they're firing shots at Trump's arguably greatest threat, doesn't that hurt his challenger?
I don't even know if they're going to go there. I mean, or do you think, Ambassador, they're going to use this as an opportunity? I mean, we're still looking at a world in turmoil. You're talking about it all the time. These candidates have complained that they have not been able to get their message out because Donald Trump has been dominating and leading the conversation. Shouldn't this be a moment for these candidates standing on that stage tonight to tell us what they're going to do in an aggressive way?
Well, I have to say, most of what I believe about these so-called debates is pure heresy, so I'll see how much trouble I can get. Right. Because they're not really debates, they're serial press conferences. And just as in press conferences, you can only get a little bit out in terms of an answer as opposed to a well-formulated thought, it's very hard to do it in the debates. I want to go back, though, if I could, to what Harris said about Ted Cruz. I think he has given a way out of this debate problem by his challenge to Donald Trump to debate one-on-one.
Yeah.
I think breaking out of this format of 12 people, 15 people, 7 people on stage. I'll give you an example. If Rand Paul and Chris Christie 6 months ago had a series of 3 or 4 one-on-one debates,
that would have been interesting.
They would both be in a better position politically today than they are, because they could have exchanged views. They obviously disagree on many things, but it would have been an informed debate, not a press conference.
But is that realistic? I mean, a lot of people are saying Trump's gotten his message out.
Well,
he doesn't need to show up at an event. So why would he even sit down with a one-on-one debate with Ted Cruz? Why would he even bother?
I told you guys yesterday that I thought that this was just a ploy for him to get out of the debate, that he was using his bat with Megyn Kelly to get out of the debate because he's ahead and he doesn't need to do it. But I do want to challenge you on Ted Cruz. I know he's a really skilled debater. I think Rubio is as skilled, but has something that Ted Cruz lacks, which is just sort of likability. And I think this is a real opportunity for Rubio. And I think not having Trump there is a real opportunity for Chris Christie, who I think has a very similar sort of personality as Trump, but maybe is like the less risky alternative, the one with governor experience, but he's not quite as risky as Trump. So I think there's an opportunity for both of those.
I want to ask you a question, though, Andrea, about Ted Cruz and what you just said about likability. I'm curious to see if anything will stick. John McCain has said some things. A few people have said things about not, being supportive, I'm being kind, of Ted Cruz. Do you think that sort of thing sticks at this point?
I think it depends. I mean, Ted Cruz, he is branded himself the anti-establishment candidate. So the others are going to be firing at him for that. I really like a lot of his policy positions. He does seem to get criticism for that persona.
Right.
That sort of televangelist, maybe disingenuous persona. So we'll see if the voters go along with it. But what I'm really going to be watching is the fault line in the party, which we've seen, and that is establishment versus non-establishment. And if, Ambassador, they're able to really differentiate their positions, especially on foreign policy, because they're very different. They're very different, the neocons versus the non-neocons. That's what I'm looking for tonight, someone to elevate the debate. Sandra, you did an excellent job, you, Maria, Trish, elevating the debate. Yeah. Are the attacks going to be serious, Ambassador Bolton, about foreign policy for this battle of the heart of the Republican Party, or are they going to be petty? Is it going to be about credit cards and attendance? I really hope that we can have this fight that the Democrats are unwilling to have on serious issues.
I think it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. If you look at the amount of time that Trump took in the last debate and subtract it, but add in the time that Rand Paul will now take up, the redistribution of time is really fairly limited, less than a minute per candidate. Sure. So I don't think they're going to have a lot of time to add much more, and I just don't think this is a format that allows for serious debate, especially since the establishment candidates have, in their own campaigns, been following a policy of clubbing each other like baby seals in the hopes that one will emerge to challenge Cruz and Trump. And I think that's a mistake.
I have to respectfully disagree. Chris Christie had a moment in the first Fox Business Network debate where he was very upset that he had to be in that first debate, the lower debate, because he just didn't qualify for the later debate. And he had a shining moment in that debate. He stuck out like he had not in previous debates.
So did Carly Fiorina.
And exactly.
And she's back.
They can be game changers, Ambassador.
But not for long, really. Carly Fiorina is a good example.
30% of Iowa caucus goers are undecided on who they're going to vote for.
Huge.
They're going to be watching, and this is big.
And one thing that we know is that a high percentage of those early first-time caucus goers say that they might vote for Trump, likely will, but this will be their first time. And so that puts some unknown out there. It's turnout that's really going to be
I don't trust any of these polls across the board.
No, you don't. You said it.
Especially, Rachel, on a caucus, because you look at it's so different from the way that other states are set up. So really, the polls, and I see a lot of tweets about polls and articles about polls. How important is it, this debate at this point? Because I think really Iowa and ground game and getting your supporters there is critical.
The ground game is important, and this is where Ted Cruz does have an advantage. He does have a very well-oiled, organized machine on the ground.
Yeah, he does.
This is where I think Trump could have hurt himself with women, because if you know anything about politics on the grassroots level, women are the best volunteers. They're the ones who make the calls. They're the ones who hit the doors. They're the ones who drag those people to those caucuses. And, that'll be interesting, because he needs very loyal female supporters to do the work for him.
And he'll be having his event, too, this evening.
Yes, he
will.
will.
It's sort of competing messages. We'll be watching both. All right, be sure to catch that debate. Fox News, Google, it's tonight. And it's the last time that we will hear the candidates debate before Iowa on Monday. Things kick off right here at 7 p.m. Eastern with Bill Hemmer and Martha McCallum. Then at 9 p.m., Brett Baer, Megyn Kelly, and Chris Wallace take over. It's all coming up this evening right here on FNC. Well, new polling shows that Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders running neck and neck in Iowa. As the chief strategist for the Republican National Committee says, anything but a resounding win in Iowa will be a loss for Hillary's campaign. So is he right? And Hillary making new comments about her email scandal. Why she's now blaming other people's reactions for her troubles. And right after the show, catch more from the couch on the web. Join us for Outnumbered Overtime by logging on to foxnews.com/outnumbered. Click that tab. You hear it's your fault that Hillary had the email problem. Tell us how you feel about that, because your emotions are the ones that caused it. So fire those questions and comments away.